Good morning, everybody. How are you today? Welcome to Trial TV Live. I'm the Squeegee of Justice. Thank you for joining us. Just check that my mic is working. Tried to watch other days. Nope. Good morning, Rachel B. How are you?
Good morning, everybody.
All right.
How are you today?
Seems like my mic is working, so I can turn that down. Cool. Nessie, work mode sounds good after my autocorrect accident yesterday. For shame. What happened yesterday? I don't remember. Good morning, Julie. Good morning, OnlyFan. Nessie and Fala. Good morning, Drama Landry. Good morning. How are you guys today? Who else is in our chat? Jenny, hello. Good morning. Thank you for joining us. Fanny Peck, good morning to you. All right, therapist, good morning. How are you? All right, so we're going to pick up on day 6, afternoon, because we left off with direct of Detective Ryan Baker, who specialized in the cell phone forensics. So he went through all of the cell phone. He extracted the cell phone of Timothy Herrington and pretty much gave us a recap or solidified exactly where Tim was, and what messages were coming and going. The only thing that was really new to me were the 3 calls that he made, 519, 520, and 521 to Jay Lee. And he also searched Jay's Twitter profile. Then he called, Herrington called Lee through Snapchat using the Red Eye 24, so we knew about that as well, and that call lasted 14 seconds. They did, the other thing is they also looked at other suspects, because the defense was all about that on one of the witnesses. Well, why didn't you look at these other suspects? Why did you only, pin out my client? And they in fact did look at Rashad Hayes, that's 1, Dominic Goldsby, that's 2, AK 3, Keziah 4, Tyson King 5, and Juan Robertson. So they did look at 6 other peoples of interest. Hey Dwayne, how you doing? Good to see you. You'll be back at 10. Okay, cool. So we stopped with direct. Now we're going to get to cross. Mr. Horan is going to pick up on cross, and hopefully we can get caught up to today, which would be day 7, but we'll get through afternoon of day 6 first. So without further ado, let us get to cross-examination.
And I tender the witness.
Secretary Baker, I want to ask you about some of the things you talked about last first. Now, let's talk about Tyson King first. He never was, he was arrested the day that y'all got the box truck, right?
No, he was not arrested.
He was placed in handcuffs, set on the curb of the street for 45 minutes, and then placed inside the box truck, told not to move for another hour and 45 minutes, and had a move on that day that he couldn't complete, right?
He said he did, yes.
Yeah. And the man that was with him that you talked about, was he placed in custody with Mr. King?
He was detained at the time as well,
He had
yes.
handcuffs on, right?
Yes.
And at that time, that you did that to Mr. King, you knew, based on this was 25th or 26th, so.
26.
All right, I'm gonna say you, but your department handcuffed this young man, knowing, according to the timeline that we have, it's already been introduced in the evidence, he was in Hattiesburg, right? You knew
We didn't
that.
know that at the time.
Well, you didn't know he was in Hattiesburg at the time?
No, didn't know at the time when he was stopped.
You had no idea he was in Hattiesburg?
You know,
Did you have Mr. Herrington's phone records at that time off of his phone?
we did.
All right. Well, if you had those and you testified from the content of some of those already, then you knew that Mr. Herrington and Mr. Tyson had a conversation about Mr. Tyson being in Hattiesburg, right?
Yeah.
I left them at Love's house. You're going to have to go get them. I'm in Hattiesburg, right?
Yes.
All right. You had no information that Tyson had all these records, and you had your cell mark documents and everything we talked about. You knew that Tyson Love had no connection to anything that Tim Herrington and Jay Lee or Jay Lee and Mathis or Jay Lee and J. Kyle Haslett or whoever was having conversations that night. You knew, did you not, that Tyson King had nothing to do with anything that night, didn't he?
Anything that night, yes, I would agree to that.
Excuse me?
I would agree that anything during the murder time, he did not, we would have known that he was
Call it
not.
murder time. We're going to talk about that just a little bit. All right, so you handcuffed him. He brought a lawyer to the interview.
An objection to
Didn't.
relevance.
You interviewed him, did you not? You interviewed Tyson King, and he told y'all he didn't want to talk until he had a lawyer, and Swayze Alford showed up with him, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. When was that interview?
26.
The 26th of July, a man that you knew, based on your investigation, had zero to do with anything on the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, or 11th, had to hire a lawyer to come see you, talk to you, correct? He paid a lawyer, did he not, to come see you?
He did.
All right. Do you know whether or not he Google searched Mr. Alford's name?
I did not.
All right. I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the other people. Now, Timberland Mathis, according to your testimony, was eliminated. He was a person of interest. He never really became a suspect, did he?
No.
All right. Well, during his interview, I believe, were you present during the interview with Detective Mahan or Lieutenant Mahan?
I'd have to refer to my report.
Well, anyway, just look at it for a minute, but you testified on direct examination that he was eliminated as a suspect by virtue of the fact that his ping location was at his apartment, and it appeared that he was searching some pornographic sites. Isn't that what you testified to?
Yes.
But he also, when Sergeant McGuire talked to him, and during the course, what we've already brought out here a couple of days ago, that she described the fact that he made a comment about the what may have happened to Jay Lee before the press release came out too. Isn't that a fact?
I don't understand what you're asking.
Excuse me?
I don't understand what you're asking.
All right. Well, Kimberlin gave some information, as I understand, and it's been already sworn to under oath here, that he was fidgety, asked for said his stomach was hurting, things of that nature, gave inconsistent statements about his relationship with Jay Lee, that he at one point in time made a reference about hearing about it on the 9th, saw the press release, and it didn't come out till the 10th.
Your Honor, objection is ongoing. It's the question. It's a compound
Do you
question.
remember those things that he gave those statements in the report? He said she's opened up the whole file, Your Honor.
No question. No question. That's the question. Just send me up one time.
I got you. All right. Have you reviewed the summary of the statement that Captain Mahan, Agent Stratton, I believe in McGuire, wherein they made the statement that Mathis complained of having an upset stomach? Have you reviewed that through the file?
I don't recall that. I don't know. They reported that. I don't know.
I don't want to ask you another question. Mathis moved around a lot. When Jay Lee's name was mentioned, he would sit up straight with a perfect posture. Have you read that in any report?
I don't remember it. No.
Mathis consistently changed his story and timeline during the interview. Have you read any report by Shayla McGuire indicating that was the substance of Mathis's statement, because he just testified he was eliminated as a suspect because of his ping location? Now, I will be perfectly clear, Detective. I'm not saying Mr. Mathis did anything wrong. All I'm saying is he gave deceptive information to your agency, right or wrong.
I don't know what Captain Mann, if that's who you're talking about, I don't know how she felt.
All right, but Detective Baker, these interviews happened back in July of 2022. You just testified the way that Mr. Mathis was eliminated as a potential suspect. That had to include, did it not, his statement, verifying his whereabouts, where he said he was, and that was in the content of his statement, where he said he was, correct? So you testified on direct, that was the way that you got him eliminated as a suspect. So had you reviewed his statement to Detective McGuire or not?
As I said earlier, I saw them when we turned them over as a part of our case file, but I can't tell you what they say. That's a lot of pages. I don't know what every word everybody said.
I'm not asking, but y'all met several times and had meetings about people of interest and suspects, things of that nature. All I'm saying is, was that information provided to you when y'all got with OPD and UPD detectives, everybody working on the case? Do you recall getting that information?
No, I don't recall.
All right. Mathis explained at first he didn't know that Jay Lee was male.
Objection, Your Honor. The witness has stated over and over again that he doesn't recall this information. not refreshing his memory. He's not having, he's just attempting to do testimony, hearsay, without anything.
He's open to file.
If you want to ask him about the statement,
I think it's already in. I think it's already in the evidence ID. Find it. So, is it a fair statement that what you're telling the court and the jury is that you eliminated him by virtue of the fact that his pin location said his phone was at his apartment?
Yes, that's part of how we eliminated him, yes.
All right. Let's go to, and I won't go through all these right now, but because I just want to understand what portions of the file that you have reviewed and what portions that you haven't reviewed. Have you reviewed the statements of Blaine Brown or Kent Ware or AKA AKA? Because you testified they were eliminated as potential people of interest, or Jose Reyes. Have you reviewed the statement of Jose Reyes before you came in here to testify today at any time?
Yes, it would have been a part of our investigation, yes.
Okay, so if you have, you know that he gave some deceptive information as well, did he not? Again, I want you to have to understand, I'm not saying the young man has done anything wrong. All I'm saying is he gave deceptive information, did he not?
I don't know what somebody put, if that's what you're saying from a report, I don't know what you're talking about,
Okay,
deceptive information.
If you say you don't know, say I don't know, I don't remember. But he gave information initially that he was not good friends with Jay Lee, that a young lady by the name of Janelle would have better information on the whereabouts and the daily routine of Jay Lee. You remember the contents of that statement being in the file that you reviewed during trying to eliminate him as a suspect?
I don't remember the exact content, no, you'd have to show it to me.
You wouldn't dispute if Detective Mathis or Captain Mathis testified to that fact. You leave it to her recollection, right?
Captain Mathis?
Mahan.
All right, so would you repeat the question with the correct name? The name threw me off.
She testified, Captain Mahan testified to that fact. You couldn't dispute that. She interviewed Mr. Reyes and he provided that information.
Yeah, I mean, I could dispute that. That's her opinion.
Okay.
I mean, I don't.
That would be in her report.
Right, that's her report, her opinion.
I got you. That was smart. Notification.
Go ahead, please see what, counsel showed.
My first number.
You may. 102 then.
Detective.
D10.
D102. Detective, review this particular item. It appears to be page 59 of the 133-page report. It summarizes y'all's investigation. You recognize that?
Yes, it appears to be a UPD report, yes.
Can you read it for me real quick? Refresh your recollection as to the content of certain interviews.
Objection, Your Honor. Witness can't refresh his recollection with someone else's report. That's not his recollection.
He has offered testimony about who's been eliminated and who has not been eliminated. I don't know whether to be cross-examined on the basis of what their opinions are, what all was considered. While he's reading it, why don't y'all come here and talk to me? Had my 3 o'clock coke at 10:30 this morning.
You have a chance to read it.
Yes, and you asked about deception of Jose Reyes, correct?
Yeah, first of all, I'm asking you whether or not you had an opportunity to review it. Have you had a chance to review it?
Yes, I read it.
Okay. I'll ask you, the judge has kind of instructed me to, not instructed me, we're going to have to process it. This appears to be a summary of a statement. Does it not partial interview between McGuire and Jose Reyes? Fair
No,
statement?
that's between Janelle and McGuire.
Correct. References in this particular part of it, what Jose had told Sheldon McGuire about the
Objection to the
Janelle.
form of the question, Your Honor.
I'll go for it. That Janelle was the individual that would provide more information about Jay Lee than Jose, correct? That's what's in this.
The report does say something to the effect
It does say something to that effect.
of Jose saying, or Janelle, yes, and Jose and Janelle, yes.
Was that marked as 102? Was that
102.
Okay.
Now, I want to ask you about some of the other information that you used to eliminate certain individuals. Now, Khalid Fears was not, he was a person of interest primarily because he talked to Jay Lee apparently on the phone at 5:58 until sometime around 6:03 on the morning in interest, right? The July the 8th morning, correct?
Khalid did talk to Janelle, yes.
And it come to your attention during the time that you were eliminating him as a suspect that he also was being deceptive about information about his activity with Jay Lee as far as whether or not they had used certain apps together, Grindr, BLK, things of that nature. Did it come to your attention that he may not have been completely honest about his involvement with Jay Lee?
I don't recall anything like that.
And did you know that at the time that Fears gave you that statement, that you had the benefit of the Snapchats between Fears and Jay Lee?
Are you asking at the time we talked to Fears,
The first time.
were we aware of the Snapchat?
Right.
No.
When did you get the Snapchat records of Jay Lee?
I don't recall the exact date.
Do you remember seeing a Snapchat between Jay Lee and Fears? I assume once you got that, you looked at the Snapchat records between Fears and Jay Lee and a lot of different people, right?
Yeah, he talked to a lot of people, yes.
Yeah. And a lot of those individuals, what we call hookups, people that you have numbers there, you weren't able to locate those individuals.
Just some speculation, Your Honor.
Sorry,
But
been
you
in.
characterize them as hookups.
I'll let him cross
I'm
examination.
gonna give him some leeway.
You understood based on your investigation that some of Jay Lee's activities involved hookups with people from the apps that he used, right?
Yes, it's possible.
Is possible, or did you find that as part of your investigation?
Jay Lee used apps, yes. He used dating apps.
He used dating apps, and it become part of result of your investigation that on occasions that Jay Lee would meet people on those apps and have never met them before. That's how he met them, through the app, right? A lot of times.
It is possible. I don't know how Jay Lee met them, or if he did meet them. I don't know.
My question is, did you look into his Snapchat history when it came up missing to determine if there was any content in the Snapchat where Jay Lee and other people were talking or chatting so you could find information that would lead you to a suspect that may have created his disappearance?
We did look into the other Snapchat users, or other people trying to corroborate stuff, yes.
Did you find a Snapchat between Mr. Fears and Jay Lee where they were talking about having a conversation about choking? Did you like choking? Things of that nature. Did you find that?
Objection to relevance, Your Honor.
I think it's relevant. I'm gonna let him ask him.
I don't recall it. You'd have to show me the artifact to go back and look through. I don't recall. If you produce that Snapchat and let me look at it, I can tell you a better answer.
Well, Detective, how far back did you go on Jay Lee's Snapchat in an effort to determine whether or not you may find somebody that could have caused his disappearance? How far back you go? I know you got the records at least back to July the 7th, right?
Yes, we would have had at least July the 7th, correct.
You did that, and you went back into May, correct?
I don't remember exact date, but it would have been some time.
And I'm asking you again, when you looked in there, did you I'm not very good at it, but you click on there, and on the Snapchat, you search the word choking, or strangulation, or choke out sex, to see whether or not Jay Lee had ever had conversations with anybody about having a preference for that type of activity.
I don't recall.
Right? Would that have been important, detective, during the course of your investigation to figure out whether or not that actually occurred? That Jay Lee or someone with him during the course of some type of sexual activity would have had some aggressive conversations between each other?
Yes, it would have been
That would
to identify any kind of.
The actual conversation participant testified that it was him who asked
Cross
where he showed.
Let's hold back on the speaking objection.
I'm just asking.
Briefly, what's the objection?
You're stating of the facts, you're trying to imply the wrong facts. The actual conversation
Hang on
participant was
one
here.
second. If you take the time you need to find the document you're referencing,
I'm just asking generally, did he do a search for that type of conversation between Jay Lee and other people about some type of sexual activity along the same lines, choking or aggressive behavior, anything like that? Did you search that before you arrested Mr. Herrington to determine whether or not you may develop a suspect? Did you do that?
We would have looked through the initial Snapchat user download that we did. We had not gotten the full return back by the time. So it wouldn't have been a full, but yes, somebody would have reviewed the Snapchat messages.
But I guess my question is, did you do that? I don't need to answer.
Did I Control F look for it? I don't recall. Somebody would have looked through that whole document and searched out everything that you're asking, yes.
Trying to find D3, all right?
Will you approach, Your Honor?
Come on.
Can I approach John? This has been identified previously as a Snapchat conversation from Khalid Fears, and it's ID'd as Defense Exhibit D3. Does this appear to be the records that you recovered as a result of your Snapchat subpoena for the records of Snapchat of Sucker for Jay? That appear to be?
It appears to be like the records we received, yes.
All right, I want you to, if you would, tell me whether or not you could read right here, Sucker J for Khalidi, whatever that is. Read that for me, all the way down to place.
Objection, Your Honor. The previous witness, we start from the bottom top, he's misdirected the witness.
Read it in the order in which you understand the record came to you and based on your experience that the conversation took place.
So
Let me look at the record right quick, see if I got an opinion on which came first. All right. Go ahead.
So, so Joey's to glad to go, homie, and is the sentence HBU as you should be, that the greatest feeling honestly How was work, though, period T, whatever makes us nut, live your MTF life, chilly, so you must like to have fun, understandable, aggressive, and also get put in my place. I don't think so. I like to be aggressive, but also put in my place. Do you have any kinds of lot? Heavy on that. Oh, you like to choke and be choked. Correct. Mutual. I enjoy mural aggression. I don't know. I forgot what you said.
That's past the part of it.
Sorry.
So the portion that came from circuit for J, which is J Lee, to Lee Pierce, you like to be choked and like to choke and to be choked, correct?
That's what it says.
All right.
That is not the portion that came from Sucker for Jay. That came out earlier in this trial. He's
I'm not
missing
sure.
the witness.
Hang on, let me look in.
It says right there, circuit for J. That's a different exhibit.
It's already been testified to. Jay Lee asked a question and then he went on to say he had no kinks. So I don't understand the
I'm
relevance.
gonna, he's on cross.
And hearsay.
Court finds that this is relevant information.
I think he just had, he asked for it to be introduced.
It's already been marked, right?
Yeah.
All right, as his introduction, I'm going to let the jury, retire to the jury room, and I'm going to hear you about the admissibility of the document. Document D3, which I think has been, we talked about earlier. It was marked as D3 earlier for ID only. The defense has now asked for D3 to be admitted into evidence. I'll hear you on your objection as to why D3 should not be admitted into evidence. But before the record, this is, as I understand it, I want my opinion to be based on correct understanding. D3 is a part of what was supplied from Snapchat to law enforcement pursuant to a search warrant as part with the more recent this was the earlier part of the same search warrant that it's down there.
Yes, Your Honor, that's correct. This is a part of at least, well, it's two things happened. They downloaded Jay Lee's Snapchat data from his account, and then they went and got a search warrant from it. And it's this in both sets.
But
So
in both situations, this is information from Snapchat that was provided to law enforcement by Snapchat. I think I heard some testimony that without the search warrant, only one side of this conversation is gotten. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
I think that's right.
That's correct, Your Honor. They got
Pursuant to search warrant, both sides will be gotten. Without the search right, only one side will be gotten. That's the way I understand it. Okay. And so pursuant to search warrant, law enforcement asked for a search warrant of Jay Lee's Snapchat records for a period of time, and the period of time included this June record, that's the subject of D3, is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, that's I'm through asking questions, and I'll start listening now. Go ahead.
Yes, Your Honor. My objection was as to first relevance, then hearsay. I believe Mr. Fears, the actual person who was involved in the conversation, has already testified to it. The officer has already identified it. He's already read what it said. The hearsay portion of it, Your Honor, is that it doesn't fit any exception. The portions of the conversations that the state has introduced have all been the defendant's own statements, and the other statements were statements made in response to understand the full conversation. The state has not attempted to introduce hearsay conversations at all at this trial, or hearsay statements. The defense has repeatedly tried to introduce hearsay statements when they could call those witnesses. This witness, Khalid Fears, has already testified and been questioned about it. We had a long back and forth.
Let me ask you a question. This would it still be hearsay if Mr. Fears talked about a conversation live with someone other than the defendant? Would Mr. Fears being here, would that somehow make a conversation between Mr. Fears and someone else other than the defendant? Would his live presence somehow make it suddenly unhearsay?
I believe, just so I'm understanding,
If Mr. Fears was sitting in the witness stand right now, and you were asking him about a conversation he had, whether it be by Snapchat or any other conversation with Mr. Lee, would that not be hearsay?
Yes, Your Honor, it would still be hearsay.
Okay.
But Mr. Fears was here, he can ask him questions. My understanding of what was going on at that time when Mr. Fears testified earlier was that Mr. Fears was being impeached because he said he didn't have conversations like this. It doesn't come in substantively at that time. Mr. Fears was then asked about these conversations. He was cross-examined on them. They weren't introduced into evidence at that time.
And I remember making that. All right, I understand your objection. I'll listen to the defense now anyway.
Now, that part of the explanation the court's running previously on Mr. Fears identifying and stating into the record the correctness of the statement that he had with Mr. Lee. The other part of it was going into the extent of their conversations about sexual activity and things of that nature in the courtroom. It was not hearsay, it was hearsay, but it was admissible due to the fact process where we were in the cross-examination.
As to this statement, whether Mr. Fears was here today making the statement or whether he was looking at his Snapchat records, is it or is it not hearsay?
Is it or is it not hearsay?
Is it or is it not hearsay as it relates to a statement between somebody other than Mr. Fears and somebody other than the defendant?
No, sir, I don't believe it's hearsay. It's two ways to evaluate. Depends on the purpose of it. It could be offered not for the truth of the matter asserted, but the conversation and the continued conversation between the two, and also for the purpose to establish that Mr. Lee had these conversations with someone else, similar to what they placed in their case in chief at this time.
All right, I'm going to do this. I'm not going to admit it into evidence. I'm going to let you cross-examine this witness on it for impeachment purposes as to why did they consider this statement in making a decision to eliminate Mr. Fears as a person of interest or a suspect in this case. But the document itself, I think, if anything, is for impeachment purposes, not for substantive purposes. And I'll let you talk about it, but I'm not going to pass it to the jury when it
Your Honor, also, there are other statements between conversations similar to this between Fears and Lee, consistent with the same line pertaining to whether or not they investigated him. I've already had a mark previously in other exhibits.
Those ones that we talked about the other day,
That's
and I
correct.
said all of them are admissible except one, is that right?
That's correct.
Well, that's, you get there, I'll give you, I don't think anything has changed about my opinion since that time. There was, I think, 4 documents marked for ID, and I, at that time, said with that witness, they would not be, but, I'm gonna allow you to question them on them, and, when we get to that portion of it, I'll let you make an objection, and I'll rule, if there is an objection, I'll rule on it at that time.
Your Honor, I will call the previous ruling. The only reason it wasn't introducing the evidence previously was I was going to redact everything out, but that one statement, and Mr. Fears was on the stand, hadn't been able to do that yet. I thought the court previously ruled on the content of the statement.
Let me see exactly what, it's been more than 15 minutes ago.
My understanding was the court ruled it was admissible for impeachment purposes, and that you didn't want all the other pages on there.
There
And that's
was,
the only reason it wasn't introduced.
I'm thinking, I'm looking at, hang on.
Yes, Your Honor.
If you don't,
You said the day of went in for sure.
there was an old statement about, if you don't send, if they don't get the picture, if you don't send the picture, it's gonna go bad or something like that.
That's right.
And I said that particular statement was not enough evidentiary. It was not a claim of violent sex or anything like that. And I said that I was not going to admit that one, but the rest of those I would.
Yes.
And I believe these documents you're record now, these are just pulled out copies of this bigger record. Is that right?
That's correct.
These are not all, just to be clear for the record, these are not all conversations with Khalid Fears, if that's what he's referring to.
I'm not, whoever it is.
It doesn't matter.
Whoever it is, if those conversations that were pointed out to me in 38, 39, 40, and 41,
Right.
let me look at those.
Your Honor, for the record, before the state introduced into the record in front of the jury, the conversation between Jay Lee and Mr. Herrington, this statement right here probably would not have been admissible at the time. If you read this statement, the one we wanted to get in, I think the court said you could, it's identical in terminology. That's the state, almost identical to the terminology, and shows state of mind as to.
That was 38.
That's right.
38 is a statement between Jay Lee and someone else. It says, I-O-N, got a pitch, and you better not be trying to pull a fast one. I'm FR about what? I guess that's an emoji or something, saying LOL.
And that's the exact same language you used with Mr. Herrington, you know.
Yeah.
Not exact, but talking about pulling the fast one. They're referring to the jury that that's a statement on behalf of Mr. Lee that he's scared. In this particular context of this case, that particular context in that case, I think the jury ought to be to consider the same type statement, basically the same typing, same words, someone else,
And we
has
weren't,
to show plan and preparation.
we weren't inferring to the jury that he was scared. We were introducing the statements about Tim Harrington, and Jay Lee's a part of the conversation. Without Jay Lee's part of the conversation, it would be incomprehensible.
All right, I'm 38.
Just that
Fo-
portion.
fo-
Maintain that as hearsay.
40,
One of them day of, Your Honor, you said it was coming out.
Which one was the,
It doesn't actually reference violence or anything at all. It just talks about what are you about to do.
41, I don't, I'm gonna let that in.
Your Honor, I would just repeat that these items are hearsay and defense counsel has not articulated why they are not hearsay. And he is, in fact, offering them for the truth of the matter.
No, I'm not offering for the truth of the
I'm
matter.
gonna let the,
And when earlier
hang
referred
on,
to...
hang on. I'm gonna let the, defense question the witness about those statements. And I have to say, did you look into other people? Did you consider this when you're making that statement? I'm not going to allow them to be introduced into evidence. A statement from Mr. Lee to somebody we don't know from Adam. I don't know anyway that can't be here, so I'll let you question on them all as long as you want to. But I'm not going to let you introduce them into evidence.
Your Honor, I think I can clean it up by having you review them and asking if it's the same type of statements that you.
I'm gonna let you ask him that, but when we get through asking the questions, that they're not going to be introduced into evidence.
Can we, Mr. Horan and I talk this together?
Please do. But that's going to be the court's ruling when they'll get through talking.
Right.
Right, take that. Court's going to be in I'm not going to be in we're going to take about a 2-minute break while the jury is.
All right. Good morning, guys. See who has joined us. Widespread Panic and Trial Junkies United. Good morning. Unbalanced Equation. Good morning to you. How are you guys doing today? So Horan is arguing. Let's see. So Horan started out with talking about peoples of interest, and he was talking about Tyson King and why the police, were so hard on him when they knew that he was in Hattiesburg, which I'm not going to fault him too much for that, but he's been going hard on law enforcement the entire time, meaning Horan. He's been throwing them under the bus on one hand, but on the other, like it's true, I forget, somebody in the chat said, on one hand, he's like, well, did you look at this person of interest? But then on the other hand, he's like, you went so hard on this guy, Not that he has a point, but he does have a point in the sense that Tyson King was in the middle of a job, moving, and he got a bunch of phone calls from unlisted or unknown sources. So he didn't answer, and then all of a sudden there's, a bunch of police surrounding him. They confiscate his truck. I get it. They did go hard on him. I get that. But Horan's like, he's he's who he is, I guess. What else did he talk about? Let's see. They knew, King knew nothing to do with that night. They talked about Jose Reyes. Jose Reyes. They also talked about poor Mathis. He was fidgety. He said his stomach was hurting. He was looking, Let's see. All right, so I think we're pretty much caught up. All right, I'm going to zoom a little bit here. Oh, Kerviel. Good to see you as well. Pipsqueak. Do I get smaller? Yeah, well. Trying to be as innocuous as I can. All right. Let me mute myself and we'll get back to trial.
I'm gonna make sure my record is clear on what I'm doing as far as these. I think D3, and I think also it's D30, 38, 39, 40, and 41, I believe, are subparts of D3, and it's all of those documents. The court's going to find that they are hearsay and not subject to introduction into this court. There's no hearsay exception. That being said, I will offer allow the defense to question the witness about in investigating the case and making decisions about this case. Did you look at these and consider those information? But those documents will not go back to the jury at the conclusion of the case.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, everybody ready? Show the jury back in.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
You may.
Try to make it quick as possible. Detective, the portion of D3 that you read a few moments ago, the message from Sucker for Jay, from Jay Lee to Mr. Fears, regarding you like to choke, be choked, heavy on that. You have kinks, I like to be aggressive, and also get put in my place. Sucker for Jay said that. Did you consider that in your investigation when you determined that you were going to eliminate Mr. Fears as a suspect? Do you remember reading that?
Yeah, sure. Yes, we read it. This is also June the 13th. Before, and Mr. Fears was at work that day. So
On June the 13th?
no, on the day of July the 8th. These messages are June the 13th.
That's fine. Did you just tell me whether or not just the highlighted portions of D40, do you recall the content of it, whether or not you remember reviewing these now on May the 29th? Appears to be Jay Lee to some unknown individual, and state whether or not you investigated the person on that email address that you received and sent that message to. I'm asking a lot of questions, but
Yes, sir. I don't know which one you want me to answer.
did you use that information on that particular exhibit when you determined that you were going to eliminate any individual as a suspect in this case?
I'm not aware. That was from May, and there was no conversation from that person in the relative time frame of the
Find any
investigation.
conversations, aggressive conversations in any other Snapchat messages that you found in Jay Lee's chat history necessary to eliminate any other suspect?
I'm sorry, that wasn't clear.
You saw numerous, according to these documents, and I can stack up a bunch more. So a lot of Snapchat messages from Jay Lee to other individuals, aggressive in nature, some of it deviant in nature. Did you use that to eliminate either Fears or any other individuals that may have been on this Snapchat chain that you found? Any of those individuals? You talked about Red Eye, and you said that you went to Red Eye because there was conversation there.
Objection on a compound question.
Did you eliminate any of the individuals once you got to the Snapchat records, in the process of looking at Mr. Jay Lee's history? Did you use any of these documents or similar documents to eliminate any suspects?
Yes, we looked at Snapchat to eliminate suspects, yes.
Okay. So the Snapchat in there between Jay Lee and Mr. Spears about choking, whether you like that, I like to be aggressive, things of that nature.
Objection, Your Honor, mischaracterization. Jay Lee says he
That's
has
not
no
a
kinks.
mischaracterization.
And
It's read into the record. I'll move on. Now, I want to ask you a little bit about the search warrant at Mr. Harrington's apartment. You were present at that search warrant?
The search warrant?
The first one?
No.
All right, but you're familiar with the return on that search warrant, right?
Yes, I've seen
You
it.
know the documents. And you also are involved in sending certain exhibits as a result of that search warrant to the crime lab. Is that right? Ms. Carver collected it. You made the decision on what exhibits were going to be sent to the crime lab. Fair statement?
I can't remember what was sent to the crime lab, what was sent to scales, but
I'm
there were some things sent, yes.
I'm just asking the question as to whether or not you were involved in making decisions on what items were sent to the crime lab in furtherance of this investigation. Yes or no?
I was involved in it, yes.
Some of these evidence submission forms that I've been provided represent that they were sent to the Mississippi Crime Lab from Mr. Harrington's apartment, and it appears it's done in a way that Ms. Carver sent it to you, and then you actually either delivered them to the lab or submitted them by evidence submission form. Is that right?
We did have evidence submitted to the crime lab, yes.
All right. Now, as far as the items out of Mr. Harrington's apartment on the first search, can you tell the court and the jury the items that you sent to Mississippi Crime Lab for analysis for DNA, for blood, for urine, or saliva? Do you remember?
I do not recall. Like I said, I don't know what was sent to the crime lab, what was sent to scales. I don't recall.
All right, let's talk a little bit. We'll go one by one then, I guess. As far as, first of all, let's go through it like this. You remember certain items getting sent to a place called Pure Gold Forensics. Do you remember that?
I remember, yes.
What was the purpose of sending items out of Mr. Harrington's house to go to Pure Gold Forensics?
Well, I'd have to look at the evidence submission and stuff. I can't remember what was sent to Pure Gold, what was not. If anything out of the apartment was sent, I'd have to look.
Well, Detective Baker, I'm not asking you what was sent yet. I'm asking what was the purpose of these items being sent to Pure Gold Forensics? Because what I understand about this case is stuff was sent to the crime lab, and there was a decision made to send some stuff to scales and some stuff sent to Pure Gold for filtering process. Is that right?
Yes, that is
What
correct.
did you understand that these items that were coming out of Mr. Harrington's apartment, what was the need for them to go to Pure Gold Forensic? Is this the first time y'all have ever seen anything out to Pure Gold?
objection on a compound question.
I'll let him answer first.
Will you please rephrase the first one? Because I don't know.
Who made the decision and why did y'all make the decision to send them out to Pure Gold? That was the first question.
Who made the decision? That would have been our leadership. That wasn't my decision. I don't have control of the money. I don't have control of
All right.
what to do.
So you were told that you were going to send items to Pure Gold Forensic. Where's that lab located?
It's in California.
California. And it was sent out there to California, and Rachel Carver never told anybody the evidence tech that, hey, there's only a possibility that that we're gonna get any valuable evidence out of his apartment. Did she? I mean, y'all were looking for trace evidence out of his apartment, correct?
We were looking for trace evidence out of his apartment.
Okay.
I'm asking, is that the question? Because it just sounded like a two-part question there, and I'm trying to clarify, was that the question?
Y'all were looking for trace evidence of value out of Mr. Herrington's apartment, correct?
We looked for evidence in relation to the crime, yes.
All right. You weren't traveling under the assumption that there is a possibility that you're going to get some evidence, right? You never said, hey, you guys, we're going to have this, we'll spend all this money sending this out to Pure Gold.
Objection, Your Honor, the witness has already said it wasn't a part of the decision.
Y'all didn't send it out there because you thought you were going to get something, that there was a possibility as opposed to a probability. Y'all weren't looking for evidence in the prosecution of the case against Timothy Herrington at that time, correct?
Yes, we were looking for evidence, yes.
All right, so when you sent it out to Pure Gold, what was the purpose of sending it out there? Why did somebody tell y'all, or who told y'all, that you need to send it to Pure Gold for any steps for filtering of the evidence that out of Mr. Harrington's apartment and other evidence that you may have gotten?
We sent it there because the crime lab, neither crime lab nor scales could conduct this type of filtering at that time.
What type of filtering was that?
It's called MVAC.
MVAC. What MVAC does is places tape lifts and other evidence samples through a filtering system so that there's a higher probability that you're going to gain valuable evidence off of that particular item, right? You didn't just send it to Scales. The Scales did regular DNA with your sample. Scales told y'all, hey, look.
Objection to what someone told someone, Your Honor. Hearsay.
Y'all got information that this needed to go to California before it came back to Scales to be tested, right?
Correct, because neither one, the Mississippi Crime Lab nor Scales, had the capabilities of doing this.
Okay. Some items you actually sent to Scales without sending to Pure Gold to do the MVAC, right?
Because Scales said they could do that, yes.
Excuse me?
Because Scales said they could analyze those
right.
those evidence.
So you take this extra step in this case. Have you ever taken it? How long were you a detective before this event occurred on July the 7th, or start that, before July the 22nd, when you executed the search warrant on Mr. Harrington's house, Mr. Harrington's car, and I guess that's it right now. How many cases did you have that you actually had submitted DNA profiles to Scales Lab or any other DNA lab?
I can't give you a number off the top of my head how many we submitted.
All right, but none of them had been sent to Pure Gold up until that point to go through this special process of filtering, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so I want to go, after you received all your testing, and let's clear something up. September the 5th, 2024 is when y'all got the test back. That's 3 or 4 months ago. 3 months ago. September the 5th, when you got the final report, right?
I don't recall the date on it,
Like
but
that, Mark, for identification, no?
No, we marked Friday. Who's that report from?
It's from Scales Biological Lab. It's 13 pages. I got to get a clean copy, Judge. I've got the marks on it.
Sugar, too long, man.
I approach a witness.
You bet.
Thank you. Detective Baker, I've handed you what's been marked for identification as exhibit number 103. Can you identify that particular item?
Yes, it says Scales Biological Laboratory, DNA testing facility,
Now,
DNA report.
I want to ask you a question. You submitted, according to this report, on July the 25th, 2022, you submitted a number of items to Scales Biolab, correct?
Yes,
All right.
we submitted some items, yes.
All right. And July the 26th, items were sent to Scales Biolab, right?
That's what it says, yes.
All right, in that report, there's an item that says one sealed paper bag containing Jimmy Lee's toothbrush. You see that in the middle of the page?
I do.
Now that is submitted for the purpose of getting a sample for Jimmy Lee's DNA, right? To compare it to whatever samples you may get or profiles that you hope to get out of certain locations, right?
The toothbrush was used to build Jimmy Lee's profile, yeah.
You went to his apartment and said, here's his toothbrush, and we'll pull his toothbrush out because he uses that toothbrush, and you expect to have his DNA on that toothbrush, right?
That's correct.
Now, the day that you got that was what day? You remember what day y'all got that?
I don't remember what day that was.
The evidence submission form, I believe, reflects that you got that on July the 22nd, I believe. I think that's right.
I don't recall.
My question is, if he disappeared on the 8th and you got that toothbrush on the 22nd, there's nothing in your investigation, was it, Detective Baker, that you felt like that the DNA on that toothbrush would have been integrated over 14 days, that it wouldn't be valuable as far as a sample to be used to profile his DNA, right?
Objection, Your Honor. That calls for an expert opinion. How would Detective Baker know that? He has a legal foundation.
She's already testified yesterday that 14 days was too much. So there's nothing about taking his toothbrush 14 days after, or 10 days or 25 days after, that you know that you're looking for it and he may be gone, that would compromise the integrity of that investigation. You used that toothbrush as a critical part of your investigation, right?
Objection, Your Honor, because the witness who testified previously had crime scene experience. He has a legal foundation.
I'm going to line the question because I'm on his head.
Right. She went deep into it, huh? So when you went, there's nothing about the scene at Mr. Herrington's apartment that would have concerned you 14 days after his arrest, would it, Detective Baker? That the items that you recovered from that location would have been compromised in any way, right?
I'm sorry, rephrase the question.
Well, you went to the scene for the purpose did the search warrant to get evidence, right? Just like you went to Jay Lee's apartment to get the toothbrush to get evidence, right?
Okay.
And about the same time.
Yes.
Okay. Now, as far as the items that were sent to the lab from, I believe, Mr. Harrington's car, my understanding is the one sealed bag containing back cargo door swab, one sealed bag containing steering wheel wrap, interior door swab, front gear shift swab, back cargo flap, stains to the right flap, stains to the left flap, stains on the front edge of the flap, bag containing front seat tape lift, front seat tape lift number 2, and the third one hair root from the hair of tape lift, one hair root from the hair of tape lift, one sealed bag containing rear seat tape lift.
Objection, Your Honor, is there a question here?
I'm gonna go through the list and ask you a question. It's on the report.
You can't ask more than 10 if you want to. I prefer you not to.
I understand. I'm not gonna do them one at a time. You're gonna take forever. One sealed bag containing 2 bags cargo air tape lift, and the last one on this particular July 25th submission, bag containing the swab from Timmy Herrington. Y'all took his DNA as well, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. While he was in custody, you compared those items there, and on that particular search warrant, we're gonna sum it up. Send these items to Scales Biolab, and I think they went through the process. Some of them in back, or start that. Some of them went to Scales to Pure Gold and came back, but nonetheless, none of those items reflected any DNA profile that indicated any blood, saliva, urine, or DNA of Mr. J. Lee in, or semen in my client's apartment. Fair statement?
So you're talking about the apartment, or are you talking about this first part where it came from the
Those items that I've just identified.
well, that's not from the apartment.
That's not, excuse me, from the car, I'm sorry.
So could you rephrase the question properly to
None of
understand
these
what you're
items
saying?
gave you any DNA profile or evidence of value to submit to this jury implicating my client.
There was Jay Lee's DNA profile did not come back,
Okay,
according to the report. I'm not an expert, so
but according to this report, right? Now, as far as the evidence that was sent on the submission form November the 15th, 2022, that was sent to, it was originally sent to Pure Gold, and that's the filtering process, right? Pure
Correct.
Gold, they do the special filtering process, right?
correct.
The gray mat from Timmy Harrington's apartment, the pink mat from Timmy Harrington's apartment, small trash can, and it came out of the back of the box truck, the blue moving blanket out of the back of the box truck,
I'm sorry, Mr. Hand, you said November 15th, correct?
the November 15th transmission.
All I see is one sealed bag containing filters. That's all I see.
I understand that. We got a report back from Scales Laboratory that these particular items.
Let me look at the document, so I make sure you're on the same page. Let's go compare documents.
I can see it as well.
I'll show you the Pure Gold submission. If you'll make, and you'll agree with me, Detective, y'all had like 4 E1s and 4 E2s. There's a lot of different
It's
E1s.
been a lot of different things. It was different.
It was different. It was a difficult report, wasn't it? All right, let's just go down like this because I have some.
Okay.
The gray mat, which was Pure Gold 1A, it appears to be the gray mat from the box truck. I'm sorry, I said apartment. Fair statement?
Hold on. Go back to where you said
I do.
PG 25
0065.
or 2206. Okay.
All right, that's a gray mat, pink mat from the box truck, right? I mean, you remember where y'all got them, right?
I don't remember exactly where all they came from.
Well, there's photographs, we need to get them out. My understanding,
Objection, Your Honor, the witness has stated that they don't remember. He's telling them where it is.
what,
I'm gonna let them try to put this stuff together. You know, I think they make a valid effort to try to get on the same page. Anyway, I'm gonna let them continue to hash it.
look at the pure, thank you, Arnold. Look at the Pure Gold submission and tell me whether or not that appears to be the items on, that were submitted on August 24th, and ultimately tested at Pure Gold. Those items right there. Right here on this first page. The gray mat, pink mat, small trash can, black blanket, the blue moving blanket, the other moving blanket, there's 4 moving blankets, and a spool of large stretch rag. Those were taken out of the box truck, correct?
Yes, they came from the box truck.
Okay. And they were sent out there through that filtering process out at California Pure Gold. And correct me if I'm wrong, that no hair, no saliva, no blood, no urine, or DNA profile fitting Jimmy Lee was found in the back of that box truck. Those items that came out of the box truck, correct?
If these are the items here that came out of the box truck, because they're different numbers, they're different. I don't have the same amount as you do, so
Well, the items that I've identified, I know they came back with different numbers, but they went out with numbers, y'all's numbers, but they came back with different numbers. None of the items that came out of the back of the box truck produced any evidentiary value in the prosecution of this case. Fair statement.
no, I didn't say there wasn't any evidentiary value. But Jay Lee's DNA was not found by the process.
All right. As far as this lab report, there wasn't any evidentiary value of those particular items. Fair statement.
I'm sorry, phrase it or say it again.
The items that I just identified, there's, according to Scales Bio Lab, after they got filtered, when it came back, they didn't find anything of any evidentiary value on those items for the prosecution of this case. Scales Bio Lab.
Yeah, I don't understand what you mean by evidentiary value, but Jay Lee's DNA did not come back. I don't understand what he means by evidentiary value.
All right. Now, you also submitted, according to this report, you, Ryan Baker, sent certain items that came out of Jay Lee's car to Scales Bio Lab. You remember doing that? You actually picked them up.
You said this report. Are we still referring to this report? What report are we?
Talking about the
Okay.
Scales report.
Okay.
Look at
Just
the
make sure we're
sec-
still on the same page.
Look at the second page of the report, if you don't mind.
Okay, yeah.
November 17th, the following items were received by Scales Bio Lab from Ryan Baker. My understanding is these items were sent out. If you look in that report, it says unsealed MFL carrier package containing 4 sealed envelopes. Those 4 items, correct me if I'm wrong, were samples taken out of Jay Lee's car. Is that right?
I don't remember. I do remember taking some items to Scales, but I don't remember without having to go back and look at these numbers again.
Nonetheless, if you'll go back to the report, go to conclusions, if you don't mind, in the back of the report.
Your Honor, I object at this time. I believe the witness can testify generally, but if he's going to go into detail regarding expert conclusions, I think that's inappropriate.
Let's let the question is first.
If you look at the report, do you find that any of these items provided any evidentiary value to the prosecution of this case whatsoever? The items that apparently came out of, if you look at SPL item 3040, 30470, all the way down to 73.
Find that in the report. Look at page number 16 in the report. Read it for me, please.
I only have 13 pages.
No, number 16 on page 11. Number 16,
Okay, number 16 on page 11.
yes. If you look at the middle of the page, 001-T4.
Okay.
It says,
Objection, Your Honor, reading in the expert opinion. The expert opinion is what you made, an expert should.
I'll have him read it, Your Honor, then ask him a question. Read the content of paragraph 16 in that report.
A partial DNA profile.
Objection, Your Honor.
Just read it to yourself, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry.
You ready?
Yes, go ahead.
All right. It appears in that particular profile you delivered, came from Jay Lee's car. Timothy Herrington is excluded as a source of the DNA profile in that car.
I'm asked a question. Next question. Go ahead.
He's excluded as the donor of that DNA profile in that car. Fair statement?
May I give an explanation after my answer?
You can explain anything you want.
Thank you, Your Honor. It does not say it excluded Jelly's DNA.
What's it say?
It says there were no conclusions. It didn't say excluded.
Well, read it then. It says Timmy Herrington is excluded as the source of this partial profile. No conclusions from Jimmy Lee's toothbrush as a potential source of this profile can be drawn. It clearly says that Timmy Herrington is excluded. Correct?
I'm sorry. You are correct.
Okay. I guess what I'm getting at, Mr. Bacon, I won't go through all these. Apparently, you have not reviewed this report before you came in here today?
I glanced through it, yes. I got it.
It's pretty detailed, isn't it?
Yeah, I barely understand it myself.
But as far as this wheelbarrow right here, we'll just go to the items we can see. How these impact things, they're in a filter, right? I mean, they're basically microscopic, right? And small items.
I've never used one before. I don't know.
Put a lot of time and effort in this investigation, right?
I did.
Well, a lot of money went out there to California, didn't it?
Would we do anything for the family?
But my question is, some of the items that y'all sent out there, they sent some of them back because y'all hadn't sent them enough money for the testing, right?
I don't recall that.
It was in your report.
I
I read
don't
it last
recall
night.
that.
You don't
I don't
remember
recall
that?
that. You have to tell me where
I'm
that's
just
at.
asking you, they sent some of them back because they charged y'all, you had, some of them came back.
Who's they?
Relevance. That's what the cost.
Go to this wheelbarrow right here.
Objection.
This wheelbarrow right here. Y'all did the same thing with this wheelbarrow. Took a sample off of it, everything, and sent it out, get it tested. No DNA profile, Jimmy Lee, on the results that came back on this wheelbarrow, correct? No, that's a fact, don't you?
Yes.
Okay. Not a trick question. Nike Jordan shoes. You submitted on January the 9th. The gray Nike hoodie sweatshirt. The gray Nike hoodie black trim. The one sealed paper bag, used condom and wrappers. All those were submitted to the lab. The Gillen t-shirt. The one black pair of black shorts, gray underwear, an artificial nail, the bag containing a pair of gray sweatpants, and the fractions of the semen stain. The only thing of all those submissions that came back was the used condoms that showed semen, right?
I'm not sure. I'd have to look back through this again.
Let's
You
go-
named a lot of things there. I'd have to go one by one because I'm not sure.
Let's go to the conclusion. I thought
Like you said, there's a lot of things here.
my understanding is that the duct tape came back no DNA profile of Jimmy Lee or Mr. Harrington, right?
I don't recall. I'd have to look. You'd have to show me where it says it in here.
In fact, correct me if I'm wrong, the used condoms that were in the photograph that Ms. Carver showed that she displayed on the tub there, they weren't even tested. You know, why were they not tested? A used condom.
That would be something he would have to answer because we requested everything to be tested.
George Shiro is the individual that would know that answer, the guy who wrote this report. Is that
Yes, sir.
right?
He would have to give you that answer. I can't give you why when we requested it and he didn't. If that's what the report says he didn't, then I can't give an answer why.
Well, if you would, go to number 34 of the report, which does not include an opinion, only a statement, and read it out loud for the jury, please.
Objection, Your Honor, to reading it out loud.
I'll let read it himself first, anyway. It's hard for me to tell whether it's objection or not, but I don't know what it says.
Have you read it?
Yes, sir.
Prior to asking to read it to the jury, asking the question about it in writing.
Does that represent Mr. Shiro's statement about those items in that number 34 about certain items that were not examined?
Yes, that appears to be so.
And does that statement inconsistent with what you just testified to?
That there were some not tested. Is that what you're asking?
No, not tested. They can be examined upon request. That's what that report says. Right?
That's what it says, yes.
Okay. Identify those items in that report that Mr. Shiro, the lab director and examiner, been provided to me in discovery as a state's witness, said the items that were submitted to him, his agency, that were submitted but not examined because they weren't requested to be examined. Tell me what those items are in 34.
Objection, Your Honor, the witness has not testified inconsistently. He said he asked him to test them.
I'm
He did.
gonna give you an opportunity to let the witness show. If he asked to be tested, I'll give you an opportunity on reading that to show where they were asked to be tested.
List the items for the jury's benefit, the items that the director down there said were not examined because they weren't requested to be examined.
Keys, card, DL, and receipts. Walmart bag with gauze,
Your Honor, this
latex.
is the same question. He said he was going to ask it from you, and he just said, read it again.
I'm going to allow him to ask the witness what the person said y'all didn't ask me to examine.
That's correct.
When you have your chance, you'll have the opportunity to redirect them and say, look right here, did you ask them or not anyway? Go ahead.
Please start over, Detective Baker. Let me just go through it for you. The black Ford Fusion keys card, driver's license and receipts, the Walmart bag and gauze, the latex gloves, and 8 used condoms and wrappers were not examined. However, they can be examined upon request.
The Ford Fusion keys were never sent down there because we never found the Ford Fusion keys, so I don't understand where this comes from.
Is there a picture
But
of
other
the
than that,
receipt of the car?
I haven't seen a Ford key because his car was a Ford.
His keys.
Jay Lee's car was a Ford, and we never found
We
it.
got a photograph in the evidence to take
Objection,
it
that's
back.
misstating the evidence. There's no
I'm
picture of
gonna,
that.
I'm gonna ask you to rephrase the question about what kind of keys they are
There's
anyway.
keys on the seat. You and Mike Burke had keys with a black cover for the actual fob. It didn't have the fob in it. Photograph in State's Exhibit 89. So the black Ford Fusion keys, I assume that's what that George is talking about.
There were keys, but there was not car keys on a ring.
All right. The Walmart bag with gauze, that was found in Timmy's apartment, right?
Yes, sir.
And the latex gloves found in Timmy's apartment, right?
There were latex gloves found in his
Got
apartment.
pictures of them in the evidence. The 8 used condoms, 3 of which had semen in it, according to this report, were not examined. However, they can be upon request. Now, you got 3 used condoms in an apartment where 2 men are having sex, apparently, maybe, we don't really know, and they weren't examined. Can you explain to the jury why that type of important evidence in a case of this importance was not examined, Detective Baker?
I can't answer why Mr. Shiro did not examine these items. Because I personally, myself, over the phone, speaking to him, asked him to do every single item.
Detective Baker? Read 35 if you don't mind. I'm going to ask you a question. And you had a chance to read it.
Yes, sir.
Does it likewise say that the hair collected from the t-shirt, these hairs were not examined? However, they can be examined upon request.
That's what it says.
Now, this report came in September the 5th, 2024. Do you remember when my client got indicted by the grand jury?
Objection, Your Honor. Indictment is evidence.
I'm asking you.
I don't correct. I don't.
September, repeat the question.
When did Mr. Herrington get indicted by the grand jury of Lafayette County? If you remember.
I don't recall the exact date.
Would you agree with me sometime February 23, somewhere around, it's early 23, right?
I would agree with that. I would agree with that.
Okay. So you're telling me that y'all didn't get a report till September the 2024, September the 5th. Didn't have any idea whether or not you had any evidence on Mr. Herrington. And you I'm not going to go into the content of the testimony, grand jury, but you testified in the grand jury that you had these items as evidence, I assume, against my client.
Objection, Your Honor. It's not
Objection.
I'll ask you this, Detective Baker. Did you ever get a preliminary report from the grand jury prior to the time, a preliminary report from Scales Laboratory prior to the time that you presented your testimony, whatever it was, to the grand jury?
I don't recall. I don't think so. But I don't recall.
Okay. So it's a fair statement that you didn't have any DNA evidence from the crime lab at that time. Right?
I'm sorry. Restate your question, please.
You didn't have any DNA evidence or hadn't inquired as to was any final reports on any DNA evidence prior to the time that that this young man was indicted for capital
Objection, Your
murder?
Honor, to relevance.
I'm gonna sustain the objection.
All right. Do you recall whether or not you submitted any other items to the crime lab that were not tested other than these items that we just talked about?
I don't recall any of that.
When you got the September 5th, 2024 report, did you call the crime lab and say, hey, George, y'all supposed to have tested these items that we talked about a few minutes ago in 34 and 35?
I don't recall seeing that there wasn't any not tested. So therefore, I don't recall making a phone call.
Okay. Now, we've talked a little bit about already no evidentiary value. You likewise testified on direct examination that you identified my client running out of Molly Bar apartments, and he had a shirt on his neck. You received lab report from, I believe, the crime lab in Batesville, I believe, and it indicated no blood, urine, DNA profile from, fingerprint analysis did not show, had some parcels in it that couldn't be identified, but it didn't show my client's fingerprints in the car, correct, on the driver's side.
Joe Lee's car?
Jay Lee's car.
That's correct.
All right. But there are some, in all fairness, there are some, I believe, some fingerprint reports that just basically say unidentified fingerprints, right?
Without looking at the report, I don't know.
You wouldn't dispute that.
Without looking at the report, I can't give you a straight
And-
honest answer without looking at the report.
Do you recall the talking? Did you interview the record driver?
I think
Mike, what's his last name? Adams? Kent, yeah.
I believe I called him one day, yes.
He was adamant, was he not, when y'all talked to him, that he did not see that car in that spot when he was doing his rounds up there. He was adamant. It says in the report, it doesn't say he was uncertain. In his report,
Objection, Your Honor, is there a question?
I'm getting
Just
to it.
testifying.
do you remember him telling you that?
He didn't tell me that.
Do you remember seeing it in the report?
It seems like I remember seeing something, yes.
If you got a report, let him look at it.
Do you remember that coming to your attention, whether or not he made that inquiry?
Objection, Your Honor. Ask and answer. He already stated.
I'm gonna let's just find the report
Find
and
the
no
report.
questions about it.
All right. The circumstances surrounding, I want to talk a little bit about the forensic download that you did on, I believe, the Snapchat. I think it's introduced in the evidence. You were able to review the text history between my client and Mr. Love, Kadarius Love. Did you review those items as part of the return on the search warrant?
I remember there was some conversation between your client and Mr.
I'm
Love.
going to sum it up a little bit, and then I'll see if you correct me if I'm wrong. The gist of it was that Ms. Watson had her some screws left in the truck, right? Timmy reached out to her earlier that night, talked to Kadarius Love, and he said they're in the truck, things like that. They had a conversation about it. And also Tyson King was in that conversation as well, right? You remember that?
The three had a conversation.
No. Well, it's not in your timeline, but would you have a problem in the break with us putting that conversation in that timeline? And another exhibit, let you look at it? You have a problem with that?
No, you're talking about you're going to put it together and then ask me to look at it? Is that what I understand?
That's correct. That was marked. It's the statement, page 47. Yeah. Wow.
One and four.
104.
Madam Approach witness, Your
You
Honor.
may.
Detective, speed this up a little bit. Are you familiar with, just look over this report, and I'm gonna get you a lot of this stuff at the top, doesn't really matter. This appears to be, tell me whether or not you've reviewed that report. Start right here where Kent make a comment about, he identified himself as Michael Kent, with Bandit Toy.
Objection, Your Honor. I've let this go on, but the witness testified he spoke to Michael Kent. He has personal knowledge of experiencing speaking to Michael Kent. Now he wants him to testify to another officer's report about Michael Kent.
I'm going, he's on cross-examination. You gonna get your turn at him too anyway.
You had a chance to look at it?
I'm still working through it. Okay.
You see the statement from Mr. Kent in there regarding J. Lee's vehicle? Just answer, you see it in there?
Yes, I see it.
Does that refresh your recollection as to the conversations or the report given to you pertaining to what Mr. Kent said about J. Lee's car?
Objection,
Not
Your
at
Honor,
all.
form of the question.
Does it refresh your recollection?
Just for the record, I'm gonna say this. When a witness is asked several times during the course of his testimony, during the course of your investigation, did you learn this? During the course of your investigation, did you learn that? During the course of investigation, did you learn this? That's telling me somebody done it and told you about it. If you're going to ask questions, you have to act that. It's going to be expected to be cross-examined like that anyway. And that's
you.
going to be the court's general ruling.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you. That's a report of representations from Kent pertaining to the vehicle at Molly Hall, correct?
It is.
And in fact, Mr. Kent was adamant that he hadn't seen that car in that location
parking spot 43 when he got there at 1:15 and the officers ran into him. The term used in that report is adamant, correct? That he hadn't seen it.
That's the language, but we watched cameras and that car never came out unless it was on the back of the tow truck.
That's not my question, Detective Baker. He didn't see it in Unit 43. He was adamant it wasn't there. He acted like he didn't see it anywhere. But he certainly didn't say he saw it in that parking spot.
Your Honor, I'm objecting not because he's not asking about the
Asking the question.
He was adamant that he didn't recognize the car inside the Molly Bar Trails apartment complex until the second time.
Your Honor, he's not asking about the report.
Unless you can just, at this point, I don't know what the first time and second time is anyway.
That's in the report.
All right.
He's not asking about the report, Your Honor. He's asking about the witness or my intent, what he said.
You've got to give me some more information before we do much testifying. I don't know enough to be rude, okay?
He was questioned about the vehicle, correct? And he made the statement that he hadn't seen it in there earlier. He obviously missed it, but that was his statement, that he hadn't seen it inside Molly Bar Trails, correct?
Let me say this. Unless we can have some testimony on what earlier means, I'm going to exclude this testimony.
Earlier that day.
If there's information about what earlier means.
Earlier that day, Your Honor. After 7:25 in the morning, he was inside Molly Bar Trails apartment complex. Correct? Look.
Mr. Kent?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. He told y'all, and he was adamant, he did not see that car, he didn't recognize, didn't remember that car inside Molly Bar Trails. Right?
According to this officer's report, correct?
All right. And we know it was in there because we saw it come in there, right?
Yes, we did.
Fair statement, it's safe to assume that Mr. Kent either missed the car or it wasn't parked in spot 43. Fair statement?
Yeah, he could have missed it.
Or it could not have been parked in 43.
I think the photo's pretty clear about where it was parked in 43.
He didn't come back in until 1 o'clock when it was parked in 43, right?
I forgot. I don't recall what time he said he came back, but
Okay. Now, you have, I'm going to go back to what we started on about the text messages between, they've been introduced into evidence already. I'm not going to go through them one by one. I just want to ask you if you remember seeing them. Apparently, Timmy Herrington texts Tyson, Emily needs those screws tomorrow. You remember seeing that in the dump?
yes, there was conversation about screws, yes.
And that was at 12:55. And we talked earlier about Tyson saying something to Timmy. I left them at the house, going to have to go get them. I'm in Hattiesburg, correct? You remember that?
Yes.
All right. And they go down and talk about the truck, but it's a fair statement, is it not? During that conversation, they've already been introduced into evidence that Mr. Herrington had already planned on going somewhere the next day before he had a conversation with Jay Lee later on in the evening, correct?
Yes, it appears that he was going to Miss Emily Wesson's house, which is in Oxford, yes.
And the screws were in the truck.
Yes.
They put them in the truck, right?
Yes, so according to that conversation, the screws were in the truck.
Right. Now, according to what you provided in discovery, correct me if I'm wrong, that at 2:30:33 to 03:10:42, that you talked about some other Google searches. Timmy Herrington did Christian faith Google searches for 40 minutes and 42 seconds. Do you remember seeing that in the
Yes.
Huh?
Yes, there was some searches of Bible verses, yes.
What item is that in that?
I'm sorry, what item is?
Yes, what, in your cell right on the page, what page is that? Do you have the item? You have
I don't have the extraction with me, no.
But you agree with me, during that time, 20/30/33, 3/10/42, that search occurred, right?
I'm sorry, say that, so tell you the time again?
20/30 to 3/10, basically.
Yeah, I think there were some searches with Bible verses during that time frame, yes.
And as far as that evening, with the beginning of 2:54:35 a.m., Jimmy Lee sent Tim Herrington, it's already been introduced into evidence, it's not on your timeline, or you haven't testified about it yet, that Jay Lee sent Tim Herrington 3 blank messages on iCloud. What did it say?
No, I did not, no, that's not true.
Okay. Well, the first conversation that occurred,
I'm sorry, I don't hear the question.
the first conversation that occurred between Jay Lee and Tim Harrington that night was when Jay Lee at 02:24:44 a.m. asked Tim Harrington, "You in Oxford?"
Correct,
That was, and Tim Harrington did not respond, right?
correct, he did not.
I just wanted to clarify the prior question. I just didn't hear it. Please say that 3 blank messages on iCloud. I couldn't understand.
That's correct.
Of what he said.
That was my question. He said it wasn't true. So the first individual that between Harrington and Lee that night was when Jay Lee reached out to Tim Harrington at 02:24:44, right?
Yes, Jay Lee reached out to Tim Harrington at that time, yes.
All right, and correct me if I'm wrong, I want to make sure that Timmy Harrington did not respond and Jay Lee showed up to his apartment unannounced at 4 o'clock, correct?
I don't know, I can't answer that question. I don't know if he was unannounced or not.
Well, you're the one, the tech guy. You
Just
provide.
beyond the speculation, so you didn't have.
I'll let him rephrase, I'll let him be more specific in his questions.
Find them. Well, Detective Baker, let me ask you this. The whole theory is that my client embezzled Mr. Lee over to his apartment later on in the night, but my understanding is that Mr. Lee showed up unannounced at 4 o'clock. Did you find out how, during your investigation, how Mr. Lee ended up going to Mr. Harrington's apartment? He drove over there, right?
He did drive over there, correct.
Find anywhere in your cell right dump that after 20:02:24:44, when Jay Lee asked Mr. Harrington, "You in Oxford?" that Mr. Herrington invited him over there before Mr. Lee showed up at his apartment.
No, I did not see any messages between the two during that time frame.
Fair statement, man. Mr. Lee showed up unannounced to Mr. Harrington's apartment at 4 o'clock.
I did not see any conversation between them during that time. I cannot answer whether he showed up unannounced or not.
Okay. Now, you previously testified under oath on August the 9th, 2022, that, and I'll give you the quote I need to, under oath you stated that Mr. Harrington made a fake account, Red Eye, that evening. You remember that testimony?
I don't recall that exact words.
Well, listen, I'll just give you an opportunity to think about it, whether or not you made that statement that he made a fake account, Red Eye, You already had those records at the time you testified August the 9th, right?
Did, yes.
That account had been created well in advance of that evening by Timmy Harris. I'm not saying he didn't deactivate it, but he didn't create that account just for that conversation, did he?
No, he did not create the account just for the conversation, no.
That's not what you said previously. Testimony that gave the appearance that he created for the sole purpose of talking to Mr. Lee, and that just wasn't true, was it? When you stated that under oath.
Well, it could be fake or it could be alternate. It could be used either interchangeably. He used an alternate account that wasn't his name identifying himself.
Okay. Well, that was part of your testimony to leave the impression that there was some type of subterfuge or some type of plan on part of Mr. Herrington to trick him to come over there, right?
Mr. Herrington lured him over there, yes.
All right, let's talk about that a little bit. You're saying he created that account, lured him over there.
I didn't say create to lure him over.
All right. Did when people are arguing or luring with each other, you said you've done this a lot, do they put LOL in their messages? Emojis? Things like that?
It's possible, yes.
Okay. LOL?
Yes, under no
Now,
argument.
correct me if I'm wrong, and I'll let the jury decide before we can really end, but when someone says, possibly later tonight, that's what Jay Lee told Timmy, possibly later tonight, he's putting conditions on it. I may come tonight, I may not come tonight, correct?
Yes.
Okay. That statement alone, is that luring somebody? I may come, I may not come.
That's Jay Lee's.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Just
Jay Lee's
Lee
name.
Timmy.
Right, so that's Jay Lee.
Possibly later tonight. Right?
That's Jay Lee's messages.
And he says earlier, Jay Lee to Timmy, what do you do keep deleting? What do you keep deleting? And that's it. Just okay. He's just telling him, say okay or not. Right? That's Jay Lee talking to Timmy. Right?
Yeah, he's asking him what he's deleting, yes.
Yeah. Just tell me okay.
Objection, Your Honor, to speculation on direct. When I was talking about the conversations, I wasn't allowed to put in the
I was just saying that was
interpretation.
I'm not sure if I remember what testimony we're talking about anyway.
Anyway.
Sustain objection right now till you tell me what we're talking about,
Right.
okay?
Well, I'm just stating what Jay Lee said to Timmy.
You can state at this time what Jay Lee said
He
to
said-
Timmy, and then we'll go.
What do you keep
we'll
deleting? And that's it. Just okay. So Jay Lee is talking to Timmy. Just respond okay. And he
No, I
said,
don't think that was an
Jay Lee
answer.
said, Timmy said back to him, I missaid something. And okay, I'll do it. Right?
I have to look back at this. I don't think you're quoting him correctly.
I misspelled something. That's Timmy responding to Jay Lee like, I misspelled something.
Let me describe this, what he's looking for.
It's the 5:54:19 a.m. 5:46:21 a.m. response. You see that?
Yes. Okay. Tim Herrington said, yes, I misspelled something, and okay, I'll do it.
And the next message reads, YK, what does that mean to you as part of your investigative skills? You know?
You know.
All right. This is Jay Lee to Tim Herrington. If you try something fast, it won't end up good for you tonight.
Won't it cut up for you right?
end up with you right. Okay, that's right. Sorry about that. Is there anything in the conversation prior to that that indicates whatsoever that Timmy Harrington was luring Jay Lee over there?
Yes,
Prior to
sir.
that.
At 5:25, he told him to come back. He kept asking, "You coming or no?"
I said prior to that.
That is prior to that.
I'm talking about at 5:48. Is there anything in
None
there
of the
that...
witnesses answered your question.
Let's make sure we're all talking about the same.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. You take that as a threatening text message from Tim Harrington to Jay Lee, are you coming or not? That's threatening?
You should lure him over. And yes, he's trying to get him to come back over.
Objection, never knew the approach.
Come on.
All right, so this is getting contentious. I just want to get back to these documents that they've been talking about this whole time. The Snapchat messages between Khalid Fears and Jay Lee. Documents are hearsay and will not go back with the jury, but he can ask him. Haran can ask the witness, which he is. All right.
That's not, that, you see anything that was a threat from Timmy Harrington to Jay Lee? Prior to that comment, that he says, if you're going to try something fast, it won't end up good for you, right? Anything prior to that, you see as a threat, first of all. Anything there's a threat, Detective Baker?
There's something that he said, like, you done some questionable shit, but that was too much.
Let's talk
And
about
then
something.
he went on to say that you're just trying to lure me over there.
I'm gonna get to the luring part. Was that a threat in any way, shape, form, or fashion? Anything in that conversation that we talked about so far, a threat?
Your Honor, this time I'm going to object to, based on what was represented at the bench, to the ultimate issue as to the interpretation of
I'm gonna let him go over the evidence, and we'll get on all of it. We're gonna get some of it.
Go through all three of them. Detective Baker, there's nothing in that is any threatening language at all from Jay Lee to Timmy Harrington. I mean, from Timmy Harrington to Jay Lee in that text string, any threat whatsoever. If you don't come over here, I'm going to do something to your mother, or I'm going to do something to your sister, or anything like that, right? That's part of the element of embezzlement.
objection, Your Honor.
I'm on a sustained objection. I'm just gonna let
Do
him
you
ask-
see
ask-
anything as a threat in any of that text string at all after the 4 o'clock, 4:36 when he got back home?
I mean, to me, that 537 one now, that it seemed to lure me over there to beat my ass or something.
That's,
There was a threat.
who made the threatening comment? That's Jay Lee was saying something to Tim Harrington.
Right, and in my interpretation of it, there was something threatening that happened or he took something like the actions that he described earlier as threatening.
All right. Did you know, based part of your investigation, that Caleb fears in that statement that he gave y'all, that he said, Jay Lee said, I'm going over there to have some fun. We're going to do something we hadn't done before. Why would he make that type of statement if he had been threatened?
I don't know that he said fun. I don't recall that being
All right.
used.
All right. Now, you see anything in there whereby Tim Herrington made any statement whatsoever attempting to lure Jay Lee to his apartment?
Yes.
All right. Point it out.
5:25, he said, come back.
All right.
Then right after that, you coming or no?
That's luring him, right? Or asking him.
Luring him, yeah.
That's a luring statement. Are you coming over or not?
Along with all the others, in combination with the others, yes.
All right. What other parts of the conversation indicates that he is luring you?
Your Honor, ask and answer.
I said the rest of the conversation, Your Honor.
I'll let him, he's indicated that in combination with other statements, it would be, I'll let him question about what other statements he's referring to. Give the witness opportunity to answer.
I mean, he actually says that and at the 5:37 when you're just trying to lure me over, and then he goes on.
That's Jay Lee saying that, Ryan. That's not Mr. Harrington, according to the record y'all provided me.
Right, that is Jay Lee, but I'm telling you that's what he's basing his, or this is all the totality of the conversation is where I'm going. That's what I told you.
You take paper, just please. I hope I'm being clear. Find me a message from Timmy Harrington, not from Jay Lee. A message from Timmy Harrington in this text string. Not something that Jay Lee said, something that Timmy Herrington said that would indicate he was luring him over there that night. It's a simple question.
The 5:51 one could be, laugh out loud, I just told you I'm leaving later tonight. Could be one.
Okay. So Timmy tells him he could be leaving tonight, and that's luring him over there.
Yes, I'm on, like I said, the totality of the conversation, yes, could be.
Your Honor, the witness has answered the statement, the question multiple times. He said, come back. He said, why not? Now, how many times is he going to answer the question?
If there's any,
As the counsel would like.
I'm going to ask the counsel, is there anything else?
One more aspect of it. Anything in this text message string that Timmy Herrington made any statement that tricked him into coming over there?
There again, you take the totality of the conversation. I'm saying you're a cool person.
Okay.
It's all could be luring. I mean, when you take the whole conversation, and as it progresses, yes, it could be.
All right. Okay. You testified a few moments ago that you're taking it in the context of conversations that they possibly had earlier that night, right? If you look at the statement, what you testified a few moments ago in response to one of my questions was apparently they had some conversations earlier that night that facilitated some of this conversation, right?
It's possible. They've
Okay.
met up already once before, so I'm sure they talked and had
Along
conversations.
that vein, along that thought process, go down to the how long does it take to strangle someone Gabby Petito. You can make the same assumptions about that particular text message as to any other text message up here about what they had talked about earlier. Correct, Detective Baker?
It's not a conversation. It's a Google search.
No. Understand my question. You talk about the totality of the circumstances, including statements that they may have had the first time they were together. Got in an argument and going back over there. Right? We don't know what the context of any of these conversations are, do we, Detective Baker? Because they've been together that night, right?
I mean, we've got some context to this
All right.
conversation.
Let's get down to how long does it take to strangle. Let's just stop right there with strangle. Don't worry about the someone Gabby Petito, because we already know that was auto-populated. So let's assume that statement right there. You can't tell this jury that that statement should be treated any differently than any of these other statements you just identified above it, because you don't know what their preceding conversation was, do you, Detective Baker? They've been together.
I disagree with that because, like you said, you can take it into the totality of what's all going on here. You see that Jay Lee is mentioned he's scared that he's going to beat his ass, and there's different context here that could lead into that. Yes.
Thank you, Detective Baker. There's different context throughout this entire conversation, right?
But I said it could be used in the same context. Yes.
Now, I want to get back to this 557. How long does it take to strangle someone, Gabby Petito? You remember your August the 9th, 2022 testimony. In fact, you testified under oath that my client typed that search in, including someone, Gabby Petito. You testified under oath, did not identify any auto population or anything that in the August the 9th, 2022 testimony, did you, Detective Baker? I can show it to you if you need.
I don't recall. I'd have to look at it.
Okay. You want to look at it?
Yeah, I want to make sure that I'm telling you correctly. Yes.
I'll put it like this. I'll have Mr. Dagnall find it. You never testified that any portion of that statement on that Google search was auto-populated, did you?
I haven't seen it yet.
Yes or no?
I haven't seen it. I don't recall. I'd have to look back.
I want to make sure I got your question. You got my question right, okay? You understand the question. I'm going to let Mr. Dagnall find it. All right. As far as getting back to the search of the house, did y'all go back to Jay Lee's apartment at any point in time and search, take any other DNA samples out of his apartment after you went and got the toothbrush?
After we went to get the toothbrush, no, not that I recall.
But you knew after you interviewed his two roommates, or people in your department, interviewed the two roommates and told you that Jay Lee's one roommate represented that if I go in my bedroom and I knock twice, I'm in trouble. You know that? Remember that being part of the investigation? Help, come help.
It was something similar to that. I can't remember exactly how many knots or anything like that.
And also, as part of your investigation, the other roommate told you that Jay Lee and people that came over to the house didn't stay in the common area, they'd go straight to the bedroom, right?
I don't recall. I had to see the report and who took that and all that.
So once you got back, when you got those statements, did you ever think maybe that we need to go take DNA samples out of his bedroom to see whether or not any of those DNA samples would match some of the DNA samples out of his car that came back unidentified from the lab?
That was a long question. Will you restate it, please?
Did you ever take any samples or do any search of his apartment to get DNA samples or try to get DNA profiling so you could determine whether or not it may be somebody in his bedroom that would match up with some of the DNA samples out of his car or other locations?
Not quite following.
Well, you didn't find anything in Mr. Herrington's apartment that indicated there'd been any assault that occurred in his apartment, right?
No.
Okay. But you did, according to the report, there was some unidentified DNA profiles in, I believe, Mr. Lee's car and some other DNA profiles, even in Mr. Harrington's apartment, that couldn't be identified as Mr. Harrington or Mr. Lee's. Did you ever go
You have
back?
to show me back to it. I have to look back through the report again. I don't know.
I guess I'm going to not hang around on this very long. You never went to Mr. Lee's apartment to do any DNA profiling there, correct?
Yeah, the toothbrush.
Did you go back and go to Mr. Lee's apartment and try to get out of his hairbrush any hair or hair with roots to compare to the samples that weren't tested by the lab that are in item 35 in the scales report?
I don't recall getting a hairbrush.
Do you not think it was important that you had two potential crime scenes, the Molly Bar location where the car was found and the Molly Bar area, Mr. Harrington's apartment you considered a crime scene? Did you not think that you needed to go get maybe some hair out of a hairbrush at Mr. Lee's apartment to find out whether or not anything would match up?
We had DNA, so I don't understand your question because DNA can be matched up with hair. The hair has DNA or can have DNA.
It can have DNA. Not necessarily that the profile, the DNA profile that came off of the toothbrush was a partial profile, according to the report, my understanding. But you didn't go back to try to find a better DNA profile sample, either the hairbrush or anything like that of Mr. Lee's?
I based it, in my opinion, on some scales said that he could get a profile off of it to be able to compare. That's all I can testify to.
Thank you.
You've been here a while. Did you need a break or not?
No, Coach,
Hey. We're gonna go, obviously gonna go a little late today, because we're already a little late. A little later, how about that? Go ahead.
Judge, this is the only copy I got for prior testimony.
We'll work something out.
All right, thank you. Have mark identification.
Can you, yeah, go ahead.
Judge, I can take this page
Take,
out.
if you can take out the portion that you,
Thank you.
it'd be easier to copy that, would be all of it.
It is page number
74.
One oh five.
All right.
Your Honor, I'm going to mark the relevant portions of this, but I think are relevant, so we can take the side out as far as we can replace it. Some testimony that's not relevant. I'm not going to introduce it anyway. I want you to. This is what's been, I believe. I want you to look at it, tell me whether or not it appears to be. Your prior testimony, I know it's a long time ago, Detective, back in August 2022. You remember that testimony at a hearing pertaining to Mr. Herrington? Just those portions in black. Well, you can read the whole thing, it helps you refresh your recollection.
Yeah, I needed me to, I had to read it just to get the idea.
You remember the testimony?
I think so. This is court record, so I mean, I don't exactly remember it, but if this is court record,
And it appears to be your testimony from the August the 9th, 2022 hearing.
it is appears.
Anything in this document, P-105, you testified that the Google search resulted in auto-population for someone Gabby Petito.
Sorry.
Anything in this testimony that you told the court in that hearing that this Google search didn't auto-populate, that my client actually typed that in?
Yes, that's what I portrayed during the preliminaries.
That my client typed someone Gabby Petito, and that wasn't true. Correct?
Sorry, say that again.
It wasn't true that my client typed the portion someone Gabby Petito. Correct? Because it auto-populated that.
Right, it could be either or, yes. I mean, you can type it all out and it still comes up, or it auto-populates. I don't know which one he did. It could have been either or.
Now, we had prior testimony, and I think you said also that it auto-populated, the record reflected that it auto-populated.
Not, I mean, in the search bar to where you can choose, but you can continue to
On top
type
of it?
something in the search bar itself.
Okay.
You can change it or whatever. You can continue to keep search or typing whatever you want. It may change to something else. But it doesn't just automatically come up just once you get to a certain point, the whole thing. Now, there is an option under it, but not in the search bar
Just
itself.
my point is, you did represent the court on that day. There was a possibility that he may have been typing, how long does it take to strangle during sex or during this type of activity or something like that. You didn't represent that to the court, that there were options out there other than someone getting a Tito during that search, did you, Detective Baker? Yes or no?
No, I did not.
And I believe 7 seconds later, or 7 seconds after that search started, he was on Instagram. Correct?
I don't recall. I don't remember seeing anything about Instagram after that.
Did you search those records? Instagram records?
Sir?
Did you have access to the Instagram records? I think they've already been introduced.
I believe we did a search warrant for the, yes, I believe so.
You did?
I believe we did a search warrant for his Instagram record, yes.
There's been prior testimony that 7 seconds, either at the beginning of the search or the conclusion of the search, my client was on Instagram. I don't know what item it is. Have you got your cell phone report with you?
I did not.
I think I've introduced this already. Here we go. D7. Read is introduced into evidence. Line 124 down to 126. 126, just read 126. We've gone over those already. That appears to be an Instagram. My client's on Instagram at 5:57:07, correct? Item 126.
Yeah, it appears that it logged something, the phone logged something from Instagram.
He's on the phone at 5:57:07. So it'd be fair to say, would it not, Detective Baker, he must be paying attention to that news, right?
I can't say what he's doing.
It doesn't appear. Based on,
7 seconds is a long time to read something.
you got to type it first, right?
But is it recorded after he types it, or I don't know.
I don't know either. Now, during the course of your investigation, you indicated that y'all did some searching in areas in Lafayette County. Y'all went to Pat Lamar Park, right? Did some searching out there?
Yes, we got a tip from out there. We did do searching.
I didn't go out there. Remember, when was that before? Obviously before Mr. Herrington was arrested, right?
I believe so, but I don't remember the exact date.
Okay. And you also, well, you went out there, because you got a tip, but you also searched the grounds around Lafette Place outside, right? Not just Mr. Harrington's apartment, right?
That is correct.
But you searched outside, right?
Correct.
And Molly Bar, y'all went over there and y'all searched, knocked on some doors, right?
We
Talked to
did.
some people there. But didn't do any searches of anybody's apartments, like walk inside to see, knock on doors, say, hey, can we look in here? There's a car we found out here, missing person, we just need to look around inside your apartment, if you don't mind. You didn't do any of that, right?
I didn't do any of that, no.
Did our police department conduct any such search, just to walk around and just see if there's not that many apartments at Molly Bar, is it, what, 16 of them? More than that?
I think it was more than that.
Yeah, maybe more than that. But none of the apartments, or even especially the vacant ones, did you, knock on doors, say, let's look inside, look in your cars, anything like that? Nothing like that.
We did look in the vacant ones, yes, the ones that are open. We got the maintenance man out there, yes. We did, I know for sure, look at the vacant ones.
And I understand that you looked on the grounds, things of that nature, out there on the outside, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, you indicated that the last ping location for Jay Lee's phone was at 7:28, correct?
Yes, sir.
You remember the last ping location, not ping location, the last ping time prior to that particular ping?
I'd have to look at the CDRs, I'm not sure.
Would it be possible, or would it be okay if, I assume you platted the longitude and latitude on the map that's introduced into State's exhibit, whatever it was, that showed on the screen, of all the ping locations?
And they weren't to scale, they were just as a representation.
The way you do that is you do the Latin long, which take Google Earth and put that on there, correct? Is that how you do that?
Yes.
All right. I'm gonna have this marked for identification, please.
What I'm saying.
Is that an aerial photograph or what you got there? An aerial photograph or what you got?
That's a Google Map photograph of ping locations, Jaden's phone. Detective Baker, this is D106. I propose that these are the Latin long locations of the phone. I'm not going to ask it to be introduced, but if you would, in conclusion of your testimony at some time before I introduce them, I'll give you a check it to make sure it's right, okay? Does it appear to be the Latin long location of, I think, the last six? I think that's right. Does that appear to be Have you charted those before on any other map? The lat and long of pin locations of,
Yes, we have charted the cell locations, yes.
alright, so I'm gonna hand you what provided in discovery as the, not gonna mark it.
None of this, if it's the historical peak data, it's already evidence.
I didn't hear that. Was there objection?
Okay.
I didn't hear, was there objection?
She thinks it was marked for ID by Ben Douglas, and I'll see if I can locate it. While you're looking at it, Detective, and I'm trying to find, does it appear to be the location of the lat long pin location of Mr. Lee's phone?
I mean, I don't know, they didn't have that long to compare to this call detail record, so I mean, I don't know if these are that right lat longs pinpoint or not.
Trying to find it.
S22.
It's 22.
My S-20 says ping data on daily on.
It's exit service. Amen.
What was the witness's answer, was the last question? We didn't hear.
He said it appeared to be, but he didn't know.
I said S-22 has got something to do with ping data anyway, is all I can say.
Did he say he didn't know about having charted it himself?
He did. I'm not asking him to put it in right now, I'm just asking it to appear to be. This was previously identified as the lat long location on Jaden's phone.
Okay, but
How long would it take you to log in those? I know it's late today. Take you a while to type those in.
it'd take a little bit, yes, sir.
Just kind of done this a lot. Does it appear to be? I know you looked at lat long a lot on this case file. Does it appear to be?
And he's asking to speculate, because he previously said.
I'm not going to introduce it, Your Honor. I'm just going to have him identified, and it's appear to be. And if it is, it's coming back tomorrow. We can do it during the break and have him introduce it.
Just ask him a question about it and we'll go from there.
Does it appear to be? Would you have a problem comparing the lat long on Exhibit 22 and testifying under oath that those ping locations appear to be correct?
Absolutely, because I can't verify that without doing it myself.
I wouldn't have a problem with that. What I'm asking, don't take the 3 days to do that. You can do
No.
that tomorrow, right?
That won't take me 3 days now.
I didn't think so. All right, you agree with me the last ping location was 728?
Yes, sir.
All right. You agree with me that the last ping before that was 716, something like that?
You took it back. I can't
Oh,
tell
I'm
you
sorry.
if you took it back from me. I don't know.
I'm sorry. Thought you had your own copy. I can't read it. Tell me. Give me the last 2 ping locations.
The time
Yes.
that you're referring to, 12:28:27 Green would meet GMT, so that's Greenwich Mean Time, whatever.
Give me the microphone a little bit, my hearing aid,
Sorry.
battery's about to run down.
So you said the last, all right, so it's 12:28:27 Greenwich Mean Time.
Okay. Thank you. Courtland doesn't come on. Detective, as far as the phone records, the difference between, we've had this testimony before, the difference between Greenwich time, local time is how many hours?
5, I believe, minus 5.
Okay. Now, you're familiar with the fact that within the last 3 weeks that agents with the Oxford Police Department, maybe 4 weeks, went back to Lafayette Walk and did a search, right? Were you part of that?
Lafayette Walk?
I think so.
I'm not aware of a Lafayette Walk. I'm not aware of a Lafayette Walk. I don't know where that is.
Oh, Lafayette Police.
Lafayette Place. Yes, I don't know when it was. I don't know what day it was.
Well, it was within the last 4 weeks, right?
I don't remember what day it was.
Well, okay. And you provided a report indicating, you got a bunch of reports we got from everywhere. They're everywhere. Did you provide a report that a month before this trial, sometime prior to this trial, that y'all went to Lafayette Place in Oxford and searched for evidence in this case? Did you file a report?
Did I file a report in our reporting system or
In June.
turning something over to you describing
No.
searches?
I
I
know
don't
you
understand. I don't understand your question.
Did you file a report and tell anybody before I questioned you about it 2 weeks ago Monday?
No, I did not write. I have not written a report. If that's what you're asking, I have not written a report.
Oxford PD, University of Mississippi Police Department, Mississippi Bureau of Narcotics, Mississippi Public Safety, Bureau of Narcotics, the Sullivan County Sheriff's Department, anybody that's involved in this investigation, had anyone filed a report that y'all searched Lafayette Place, the grounds of Lafayette Place, a month ago? Or since September the 5th, when the DNA report came back in? Did you file a report until I asked you about it, Detective Ryan Baker?
Not that I'm aware of. I did not.
So, in the interest of transparency, and you'd agree with me, that's a little what we call deceptive, isn't it? That word's been used a lot in this courtroom. That's a little deceptive, is it not?
I did not see it that way.
You don't believe it is?
No.
You don't think? Did you find anything incriminating against my client in that search?
We did not.
Did you report to the DA's office, say, hey, look, we went over and searched, and just like the search warrant, just like the DNA report at his apartment, Mr. Harris's apartment, just like the DNA report in the car, there was no evidence. Did you not think that's something that you needed to tell somebody that you didn't find anything less than a month ago when you went out and searched?
I don't understand the question.
The question is, do you think that's fair?
Think it's fair that we didn't tell you?
Yeah.
There was nothing there, so there's nothing to tell.
Well, if you'd have found a pile of blood, you'd have told me, wouldn't you?
What now? I couldn't
If you
understand.
found a pile of J.Lee's blood, you've been hightailing across the street to the DA's office and telling them, wouldn't you?
Yeah, we
And
found
it would have
Jody's blood.
taken an
Yeah.
hour to get a report to me.
Objection, Your Honor, relevance about getting a report.
He's on cross-examination, I'm gonna let him, yeah, cross-examine.
Do you think that's fair? Detective Baker, transparent, good police work, when you find something that doesn't incriminate a citizen of the state of Mississippi, you don't tell them?
I think it's not part of our reporting management.
How many other things have y'all gone out there and not found and investigated that you haven't told us about? Have you done any other searches in Lafayette County or interviewed any other witnesses since February of 2023 when the indictment came down on my client that you haven't told anybody about?
And I bet you continuing to bring up indictment, grand jury.
I'm gonna allow the question.
Think about it, Detective Baker. Is there anything out there, any note, any scribble on a pad, any comment by a witness that you haven't told us about? But you didn't tell us about this search.
There's nothing else that I'm aware of.
Okay. And you're familiar and you understand that Emergency Management Services is also an agency that's involved in the investigation of this case, right? EMS?
I'm unaware of that.
Well, Shane Fortner's the director, isn't he?
Emergency
Yeah.
Management Services?
Whatever it is. What's he
That's the
director?
ambulance, is it
Huh?
not? EMS is ambulance, correct?
What is he the director of?
Emergency Management Agency,
When did they become part of this investigation?
Shane's always been a part of the investigation. He was Lieutenant of CID at the time the investigation was
What
going
is he
on.
doing down in Grenada 3 weeks ago in his new position, in his new truck, searching down there on property without telling anybody? Did you know that happened?
Yes, I was aware of it, and he did tell the people that owned the property.
That's not my point. Why weren't y'all down there searching? That's not part of his job responsibilities now, is it? To be part of this investigation, unless he gets permission from his boss, right?
He works for the city, so I mean,
Right.
that would all have to come
Have
through.
you seen a report that they compiled? Searching property in Grenada, Mississippi. At the same time, you're searching property in Lafayette. Have you seen a report, aware of any report that represents the findings of that search?
There was no findings, so no, there was no report done.
Again, don't you think that's something that you ought to tell the DA, maybe turn that over to the defendant?
And like I said, there was nothing there. There was nothing found. It's not a part of our SOP to have to write a report about it.
Well, I'll object because opposing counsel has received this information.
What's that?
He's mischaracterizing this. Opposing counsel has received the list. It was placed in
I didn't receive it before the question about it 2 weeks ago. I got it last week.
I'm gonna allow you to question on it.
You didn't provide any report. Send a report on both of them at the same time, and I got an email with, not from you, not from Shane Fortner. Got an email telling the locations that y'all searched. And that was it. Not one of these fancy reports. I don't know who went. That's not in the report. Do you think that's fair?
I think we were doing the scope of our job. Going down and looking for that body of Jay Lee, yes.
Okay. How many locations since the September 5th lab report that you got in that said no DNA have you searched?
Since the lab report, I don't remember the exact dates. I don't know if you've already referred to the only ones that we've done.
All right. There's only 2. Not 10 weeks.
How much can you do in 27 minutes?
Also, I'm not kidding here.
how much redirect can you do in 27 minutes?
We can find out, Your Honor.
Y'all glad to work at 6 o'clock? Can we leave straight from here, go into the restaurant, will that be okay? How far is the restaurant from here? Oh, we can see there from here anyway. I'm gonna give y'all about 6:15 anyway, and y'all about 100 yards from the restaurant, so y'all move it anyway. We'll be a little farther down the road. Go ahead.
Detective
Hey, y'all need a break?
They just needed no water.
I would like a
Need
break.
water, okay.
I would like a break.
You want a break?
I do.
I don't blame you.
Oh, we got one individual.
All right, let's take a little break. We're kind of working about 6:15, but let's make it a real short break. It's going to be meaningful testimony.
Hey guys, so they're going to continue on just a little bit, and I'm going to recap after this. Because Horan was definitely going hard on Mr. Baker there. But let's get to the...
I want that request to be specific anyway. What,
My request is to, it's gonna take a while for us to go forward in the morning as to cross-examination, let him do the lat long, I guess, on the stand. It's the only way we can do it.
I'm going to bring the jury back in. Tell them that you have made a request to let you, and like the testimony showed, you have made a request that the witness do some latitude and longitude determination, location determination, and rather than the state start with a redirect and then you take him back over at that time, I'm going to let you finish with that, and then the state come over. Mr. Creekmore not here, but that's what I'm going to do. He'll figure it out. Go ahead and show the jury. I'm going to do this. I'm going to let the defense ask this witness to do some pinpointing of latitude and longitude information. Where this is, where is this in the general vicinity of, sort of like the state's testimony was, and begin that testimony in the morning, and then we tender the witness back to y'all. I don't want the state to start a redirect, go back to this information, and then the state start back. We're just going to, it's late enough in the day. I'm going to let the state, I'd like for you to on the record to tell this witness in front of the jury what you want him to do.
It's gonna let him, like we did on the other exhibits, do the lat long on those 6 that I identified on the map. This is 7.
Are you going to add this to an, are you going to,
He's going.
what's the medium? What's the medium? I mean, is it going to be on a Google map? Or?
Yeah, Google Map, to the laptop over there, you can put them on there and say my exhibit represents what's on the Google Map on the screen. If it is, it says it's right.
Mr. Creekmore, you were out of the room, but I was telling the folks what the plan was. I'm going to bring the jury back. Let Mr. Horan ask this witness to do some plotting. I think he indicated 6 places he wanted to do some plotting on longitude and latitude of the list that y'all have provided him of the pings, or whatever, how many it is, and just start back his test. Let the witness do that between now and in the morning. Start back with that cross-examination in the morning, and then tender to y'all.
So bring him back in and let him.
He'll continue his cross-examination. Do what?
Let him plot it out in the presence of the jury.
No, he's gonna do it tonight.
Oh, okay.
He's gonna do it tonight and come back in the morning. All right, and I assume y'all gonna do that using Google Earth and some map.
Judge, I may have 2 questions about 2 entries on the cellar, right? Other than that, it'll be done.
All right, show the jury back in anyway. Ladies and gentlemen, the jury, if you will recall, as part of Mr. Holland's examination of Mr. Baker, he asked Mr. Baker to get plots in 4 places on longitude and latitude using Google Earth, and indicated we could do that. We'd take a little time. I thought, which we're going to do this tonight, rather than the state start doing some questions and then the come back and bring that back up. We're going to quit for today. When we come back in the morning, Mr. Holrad will go over that information with this witness, and then the state will have an opportunity to redirect at that time. We're going to start at 8:30 or 9 in the morning. 9?
8:30.
That's what I'm going to do. 8:30. Let's do it 8:30 in the morning. I want to go home too. Hey, you're not the only one that's way off home. Anyway, it's a long way to reach. All right. Remember the motion stuff. Don't talk about the case. Don't allow anyone to talk about the case with you. Don't form or express any opinions. Don't investigate any place. Don't look at any media coverage of the case. Mr. Baker, you'll only to the extent it's necessary to figure out what you're supposed to do tonight. Don't discuss your testimony with anyone, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you for doing that anyway. Don't take off good supper, okay? Won't be in recess until 8:30 in the morning.
Sorry, guys. All right, so yeah, we know that wasn't true. That they did not start off at 8:30 or 9. They started off, I think, around 10. Yeah, 10:30 even. So we're not that far behind. We're only like an hour behind. So hopefully we can catch them. All right, so I think basically Horan wanted to bring in the Google Map plots, and instead of having the state redirect and then Horan come in with that, and then the state redirect again, judge just wanted to have that done all in one shot. So that's why he was going to start with redirect today, basically, and then let Horan do his thing, I think, first. Well, we'll have to find that out. So anyway, yeah, my notes, I mean, Horan just basically just went into everything that Baker had testified, just trying to poke holes. Yeah, Horan was definitely upset about a report that he received last week, and it wasn't a fancy report, it was just an email. So he was basically just going after everything that Baker had said about his reports, and they weren't, in law enforcement, they didn't go after some suspects, but then they did go after some suspects, but then they went hard after another suspect. So he was basically just trying to poke holes in everything. That's the gist of that. Things that stood out to me. The Google search, I guess, that kind of stood out. He searched, and like 7 seconds later, he was on Snapchat. So he didn't really stick around too long on how long it takes to strangle somebody. So that, I don't know. Do you think that he was successful in poking the holes? I don't think so. I don't think I still have my feelings on Timothy. I'd like to see what defense brings up, but none of what Horan did on the cross really swayed my opinion. But what I did find out, chat, which was really interesting, I didn't know about this until just now, even though this happened in 2022. So July 28th, 2022, there's a news article. The uncle of Timothy Herrington will no longer be the lead attorney on the case. So when Herrington arrived at the Lafayette County Circuit Court for his bond hearing, so he was in jail, this was for his bond hearing, he was met with loud chants from the LGBTQ supporters rallying for Lee. But once inside the courtroom, Herrington's uncle, who is Carlos Moore, so that's a name we have to look up, Carlos Moore, was not there, was absent. Since Herrington's arrest, July 22nd, 2022, Moore has appeared on camera and staunchly defended his nephew, proclaiming his innocence, and announced he would represent Herrington. Moore says, "I will be a zealot advocate because I know in my heart that he did not commit murder. I know the type of young man he is." So then that hearing, that bond hearing, that's when Kevin Horan was introduced of Grenada, Mississippi. That's where Herrington is from. It was a different judge. He did grant a bond. Oh, he granted a delay in the bond hearing, presumably to give the defense more time to confer with his client. But Carlos Moore said he's still co-counsel. "I had a conflict yesterday and could not attend the court hearing." That's what he said. So he says he's co-counsel. So maybe he's sitting. Okay. Let's look up Carlos Moore. Carlos Moore, lawyer. Let's see what the deal is. There he is. All right. Is this him? Founding attorney. All right. Here. I'll drop it in the chat, guys. Here is Carlos Moore. This is Carlos Moore, uncle. So you guys can check him out. All right, so that's Carlos Moore. This is Timothy Herrington's uncle. Carlos Moore stands as a towering figure in the legal community, founding attorney for Carlos Moore Law Group in Grenada. He brings a wealth of experience, first African-American multiple judge pro tem in Clarksdale in 2017 and Grenada in 2020. He went to Moss Point High School. He's got a degree from University of South Alabama, Florida State University College of Law. That's pretty impressive. He also academic experience at Rice University and University of Mississippi School of Law. So he's mostly a personal injury. Okay, let's see. He was named Best Lawyer by Jackson Free Press 2018-2019. What is his practice? Personal injury, criminal defense, maritime, employment, products, Social Security. He does civil rights litigation. So, practices car accident, mass tort, negligent, offshore injury, nursing homes, personal injury, police brutality, premises liability, products liability, riverboat accident, slip and fall, Social Security, truck accident, wills and estate, workers' comp, and wrongful. All right, so that was his uncle. He was representing him at one point. Yeah, it seems like, his family seems to be pretty, pretty well off, so I'm sure Horan was not inexpensive. So, all right, so that's about it. Yeah, Little Miss, I had no idea he was his uncle. Yeah, I just found that out. I was just kind of searching around and just sort of ran across that. So, he does everything but criminal. Maybe that's why he decided to, stop off. All right, so we're going to break for about 15-20 minutes. I'm going to grab a quick bite, and we're going to pick up on day 7, which just started about an hour, 10:30 I think it started, so we're just behind about an hour and a half. So thanks for watching Trial TV Live. This was day 6 afternoon of the Timothy Herrington trial, and we will be picking up on day 7.
There's a redirect.
Oh, and yes, Aaron set up a redirect. So we will see you guys. We'll see you guys in about 20 minutes. Thanks for joining. See you later. Bye.